Wonderful. So my name is Katie Oberly, but my maiden name is Sebastian. So I am Betsy Sebastian's daughter, and I live here in Upper Arlington. And I have been a marriage and family therapist for many years. I still hold my license, but about 3 years ago, I stopped practicing and started a business called Katie Oberly Creative, in which I offer creative mindfulness-based experiences. So sound baths are one of my offerings, and I also do something called soul collage. Jackie just did one with me yesterday. If you have any questions about that, or you, of course, can talk to me about that, but it's a beautiful practice. I do mindful vision boarding, gratitude art journaling, forest bathing, and I can tell you all more about that. And I also have business cards on the table over there if anyone's interested. But we're here for, hi, good morning. I didn't know you could interview that. Exciting. Stage left. Okay. But today we're going to experience a sound bath. And all of my offerings are sort of under this umbrella of creative mindfulness. And what I mean by that are creative doorways into experiencing what mindfulness really is. And it's kind of such a buzzword these days. I think in the last 20 years, even 10 years especially, the amount of research studies about it has just catapulted. And so there's a lot of, sometimes confusion around what it really is. Is it the same as meditation? So I thought for just the first few minutes, I would just talk a little bit about that. And maybe even get a sense of everybody's experiences with mindfulness and different forms of meditation. Certainly, mindfulness is a state that we can all tune into. It doesn't matter hi there, good morning, what religion we practice or don't practice. It's really just a state of being and actually a way to pay attention. So mindfulness, the definition of it is paying attention intentionally in the present moment to like any aspect of your present moment experience and doing that non-judgmentally. So having sort of an open, warm, curious sensibility to you when you turn your attention to any aspect of your present moment experience. And that may be using your senses. So things that you hear in the present moment. And so there'll be some of that with the sound bath. Things that you see, things that you smell and you can taste, even if it's like the aftertaste of your coffee or whatever it is. But then also your internal experience in the present moment. You can be mindful of what's going on in the body. So maybe even now in this moment, awareness that your bottom is sitting on a chair. Even as I said that, there were a couple little shifts that happened, right? You kind of you turned your attention. Like, am I comfortable? How do I want to be seated a little differently? Are there any just pains in the body? Any unpleasant sensations or any pleasant sensations? Even how the temperature feels on your skin or how your clothing feels on your skin, how your feet feel on the floor. You even might decide to kick your shoes off and feel like, wow, I want to do a little it's not really earthing, carpeting, but just have a little bit more groundedness on the floor here. And then in mindfulness, you can also be mindful of your emotional state, right? Are there any feelings that you can be aware are going on? Maybe it's the feeling of contentedness, kind of here with the lovely fellow travelers, just sitting and kind of receiving this experience. Maybe there's a little anxiety around like all the holiday shopping you have yet to do and things you need to bake and all of that. Maybe there's some sadness or some grief around this time of year, if there are any losses that feel a little bit more potent around this time of year. So any awareness of emotions is a way to tune into mindfulness of emotions. And then any thoughts that might come across your mind. Our minds just think all the time. And honestly, most of the thoughts that we think are pretty repetitious. You'll have the same thought multiple times during the day. So some thoughts that, we don't really need, most thoughts we don't really need to do anything about in the present moment, but we can get hooked by them pretty easily. So we can kind of go off, like we can kind of jump on the train of a thought and like ride that way away. And so the invitation when you're practicing mindfulness in a more formal way, like meditation, is to just hold awareness that there are thoughts that might be, on these train cars just in front of you, going past, maybe thoughts about the future, like, oh goodness, things that I'm like not looking forward to, things that I am looking forward to. Maybe there's that clinging of like, oh, I really want this day to come. I want to be on break. I want to, whatever it is. Or aversion even, right? Like, oh, I really don't like to think about that thing in the past, or, oh, I really am not excited about this thing or seeing this person at, at Christmas or whatever it is. Regret, worry, the past and the future often come through. So meditation is really the formal practice with sort of the start and end time of mindfulness, turning your attention inward to thoughts, emotions, body sensations, outward to your environment. And mindfulness meditation can be done with using an objective meditation to kind of anchor you in the present moment. So if you get pulled away by thoughts or feelings or what have you, you can come back to sort of like this central point in the present moment. And so that's why sometimes you hear about, or you've tried using your breath as your objective meditation, because the breath is always with you until it isn't, but we won't get all morbid. But it's always with you in the present moment. You're always breathing now. So floating your attention on your breathing, not trying to alter it in any way, but just having this awareness of breathing. And then inevitably, as you float your awareness on your breath, thoughts might come. Awareness of other sounds, sensations, objects of attention might pull you. And that's all right. And eventually, you'll realize that that's happening. And when you realize it, you can bring yourself back compassionately and non-judgmentally to the object of meditation, for example, the breath. And that action of coming back actually starts rewiring your nervous system and your neural pathways, so that action of coming back to the present, going away, coming back, going away, coming back. You never have to feel like a bad meditator, that you're not able to just clear your mind. That's really not about what it's about, right? Even monks on mountaintops don't always have clear minds. Everybody's minds are going to do what they do. And mindfulness and meditation is a beautiful opportunity to get some insight, kind of drop into the patterns of your mind. But I will say then that mindfulness and meditation are not synonymous with relaxation, because mindfulness is really the opposite of being in denial. When we're mindful, we're aware of what's going on inside of us or around us. And so with that comes a bit of a responsibility, a choice. What are we going to do with that awareness? Now we're listening into the patterns of our mind. Wow, maybe I'm doing a lot of judging. Oh, maybe I'm doing a lot of self-criticism. And can I not judge my judgment? Can I not criticize my self-criticism? Can I just notice that compassionately? Can I be the observer? Can I be the sky looking down at the weather and just observing and noticing? And then after a meditation session, maybe there is a little bit of thoughtfulness or journaling or consideration about how I might move through the world differently. Maybe I need to pick up the phone and have a reparative conversation with somebody that I thought about. Maybe I need to consider how I engage in relationships in general, some of my patterns around that, or around workaholicness, or whatever it might be. But for me, in my life, and the reason why I like to engage in creative doorways into mindfulness is sometimes I don't enjoy, not that you have to enjoy something all the time, but I don't always enjoy a prolonged experience of mindfulness meditation like this, sitting up sort of with this fairly rigid posture and just following my breath, going and coming back and going and coming back. Sometimes that feels a little oppressive. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I really don't need anything else to give me pressure to do something perfectly. So this is why I really enjoy a sound bath, because there's a lot of choice in a sound bath. So I'll be playing some tones. These are quartz crystal singing bowls, and they make a lot of these like vibrational tones. And I can either strike the bowls, or kind of roll my mallet around the rim. They're all in a C scale. So if any of you are musicians, you'll see there's a high C, low C. So I might play some harmonies. But the invitation is to sense your awareness floating to sound. That's a choice. And maybe using sound as your anchor so that you can, be aware when your thoughts go out. Maybe you'll just be traveling in this beautiful dream state the whole time. Maybe you'll be off in a story about yourself or what you have to do the whole time. But maybe, just maybe, you'll hear the sounds again, and that'll bring you back into the present. Sounds are going on all the time, but whether our present moment awareness is focused on them, that's the question mark. So you can then also use your breath, like we had talked about, as an anchor. And you can also move your body however you need to. If you prefer to sit on the floor, even if you prefer to lay on the floor. For some of you, that won't feel nourishing or good at all. And for some of you, that will feel really refreshing. There are some cushions in the back, so you can always put a little cushion under your head and just lay down. That's fine. The other things that I'll use during the sound bath, and these sounds might awaken you a little bit more than lull you to sleep, which is good, I think, to have the interplay, because then you can sort of be aware of like, oh, I was floating into a story, and now the chime brings me back to the present moment. So this is a koshi chime. Sweet little sound. So at one point in the sound bath, I might travel with that, so you might hear it kind of behind you and around you a little bit. And this is called an ocean drum. It's similar to a rain stick because it has these little beads in it, and when you shift it from side to side, it sounds, instead of kind of like rain falling, it sounds like ocean waves. So I'll demo this as well. I always like to be trauma informed. I don't like to surprise you with sounds, especially if your eyes are closed. Like, what is that? So I'm going to give you, now this is a louder sound. So that'll also probably be traveling around a little bit. Yeah, so I'm going to turn off these lights, and we're going to have about 25 minutes or so of a sound bath, and then we'll have about 10 minutes at the end just to sort of reflect and share anything about your experience, or to ask any questions you want about this specifically, or about mindfulness or meditation or resources or anything like that in general. How does that sound? Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I invite you to just, again, move into a place of relative comfort, and somewhere that you can kind of be for 20, 25 minutes. And that may involve shifting. Again, nobody has to be a perfect meditator here. So if you need to move around, if you even need to stand up, if you need to walk around, totally fine, whatever you need. Stillness can be really actually refreshing and nourishing. So maybe you just sit. And you're welcome to close your eyes, or you're welcome to sort of have a slightly kind of soften your gaze and maybe move it in a downward, kind of maybe like 45-degree angle, where there's nothing that you're super focused on. It's just sort of kind of like a neutral resting space for your eyes. And you can play with both experiences if you want. So maybe first become aware of one of those choice points as an object for your time today, your experience in this sound bath meditation, your breath. So just noticing that you're breathing, And sometimes with mindfulness, I have found that gratitude can bubble up organically. Awareness of breath is really awareness of life. And so with this awareness of life, most of the time I feel pretty grateful. Even if things are rough in my own life, I'm grateful for the gift of life in general, grateful for the lives I'm surrounded with. Maybe after that moment of gratitude, there's just maybe a bit of a release around any have-tos or things that you feel you have to do in this time. There is nothing that you have to do. The idea of a sound bath is that you are bathed in sound. You get to just be with no agenda, just to allow sound to wash over you, knowing that gentle vibrational sound can often downregulate our nervous system from chronic stress and fight and flight, sympathetic nervous system to rest and digest, parasympathetic nervous system. And maybe just experiencing what that feels like to drop into rest, to give yourself the gift of being instead of doing for just a little bit. as you start to orient to the sound of my voice, you just start bringing some small movements to smaller parts of your body, like your toes. You'll be starting to wiggle them, your fingers, starting to move them. Be shifting in your chair, uncrossing or crossing the other way your legs. Maybe still with eyes closed, taking a full stretch with arms up to the sky. Maybe even stretching one arm behind, taking the elbow, pulling other arm behind, pulling the elbow gently. Reaching arms once more up. And with an exhale, dropping them back into your lap. Maybe rolling your neck. Going up, kind of shaking it up and down, yes and no, side to side. And finally, when you're ready, fluttering your eyes open if they're closed, and coming back into the room. So, this might have been a very different experience for some of you. For some of you, maybe you've listened to something like this on a recording, or maybe you've done some meditation and just kind of allowed yourself to be in stillness for periods of time. And for others of us, this is different. So no matter what your experience, I would love to hear about it, and it helps normalize it for other people. Nobody has had to have been awakened or had a huge transformation. In fact, you might have even found some of the sounds unpleasant, irritating. You might have found yourself clinging, wanting that one sound that you liked the best to come back, or for this all to be over, or this all to keep going. Whatever your experience. Yeah, sorry.
When you played the rain drum, I was thinking of the permission that a good rainstorm gives me to stay in, not run around. And it's a neat little thing, because I haven't planned anything for it. Oh, look, it's storming. Maybe I don't have to go do those errands. Stay home, make a cup of tea, read a little maybe. That feeling of, I have a little time out.
Yeah, and noticing how that feels to our bodies, to our whole systems, and maybe the invitation to welcome in more moments like that. When it's a sunny day, maybe you go do that outside. The idea of just expansiveness, rest, and the invitation that it reminded you of times in your life when you've had that experience with rainstorms. Thanks.
When I heard the rain drum, I felt like it was a very heavy, not loud, but heavy sound. Mm-hmm. And it made me feel like the sensation of having like a weighted blanket on me, and that sort of relaxation that brings is very different.
Cool. Yeah, like a sonic weighted blanket. Love that. Cool. That's a neat visual. Thanks for sharing.
Visualize rain on the ocean during the.
Yeah, rain on the ocean. Yeah. Beautiful.
It's funny, I couldn't decide if it was rain or if it was waves.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I was in Michigan on those sand dunes as a child, and just sitting watching the sunset, and those waves would crash. So I thought, okay, they're waves, right? Yeah. And also just coming here, I thought it was going to be something else. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a gift. Total gift to just not actually have to think and just sit. So thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, sometimes we we don't even know what the mental load is until there's an absence of it for a few moments. And then just that experience to just realize like we can give ourselves that gift, but it sure is nice when it's facilitated and we just have to drop in and do nothing to make it happen. Yeah.
Barge.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah. And all of that is part of the sounds, right? And noticing, irritation if someone's opening or shutting the door, or noticing like, I go, and then I'll get your comment or question. I go to self-critical still sometimes. It's a lot less than it was. Thank you, mindfulness and therapy and all those good things. But, still when some people leave, I'm like, oh no, am I pleasing this, right? Like, do they not like it? Should I find it different? Like, oh, interesting. That my mind goes right there, and then just noticing. So even as I'm doing the sound bath, I'm having that mindfulness experience. Yeah.
I have white noise. My mother had tinnitus really bad.
Yeah.
Cicadas in the field, which I would have lost my mind. But I had white noise, particularly in my right ear because the canal's smaller.
Okay.
And I was a competitive swimmer. And so Dr. Owens at the hearing center said, because it was going to kick out people who buy white noise machines, because I have all the time.
You're a human white noise
And
machine.
sometimes it's so loud I can't sleep. And he says, well, your brain is still looking for a sound. And so he had me buy a small Amazon sound machine, 44 sounds, and rain, fall, and different ones. And he said that way your brain will concentrate on this other sound, and it really does relax you and lets you relax and
Good.
and hear and focus on this other noise.
Good.
Which is very relaxing, and I fall asleep then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you find yourself going into sort of twilight sleep at all during this?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's
Yeah.
really relaxing. It's wonderful.
Good. Yeah.
I shared the experience with my Southern Baptist parents. And I thought, wow, my parents think of this in a church setting. They were very grace-filled and unassuming, non-judgmental Southern Baptists years ago. And I thought, well, at first they'd be, especially my father, would be kind of curious about this. But then they would be so intrigued by the sounds and the loveliness of it and how it was created. They'd be very curious to open their eyes. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, curiosity is just such a beautiful quality. Beginner's mind, the ability to just, not know and wonder. And
I was also curious how you would create two sounds at the same time in different places. Were you?
Yes, some harmonies with the different bowls at the same time.
But
Yeah.
it sounded like there was something else from another part. Maybe it was
Oh, yeah, and walking around sometimes with the chime and the drum. Yeah.
And it's amazing. You have those bowls that make that beautiful sounds.
Yeah, they're awesome.
That was so unexpected for me.
Good. Any ideas too or thoughts around just how you might integrate use of sound as a meditative tool in daily life? I opened the door, room was a little warm this morning, and so opened the door and heard the rain and birds. That's a sound bath, right? Nature gives us sound baths. How might you incorporate any of this? Even just the idea of mindfulness itself, or dropping in for just a couple minutes here and there in your life. What might that look like?
I was aiming way too high. I was redecorating my entire basement to be like this place where I go to meditate, and I won't do that.
There is
In my
something
mind,
to
I
be
just
said
did.
for,
So-
making it easy,
By
right?
creating a space,
Yeah.
even if it's just a place I sit to focus on the sounds or pick a sound to focus on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a plan, I guess.
Yeah.
A tentative plan.
Yeah.
Because it was.
And I love the idea of playful
Beneficial.
plans, like, when it doesn't have to be so uber serious, right? And that's why sometimes I'm in environments, you know, and people do sound baths sometimes, and occasionally there'll be somebody that is just very like, oh, yes. And I know if it's too serious, then I just don't feel it's accessible. So really just like normalizing it, bringing a little play into it, experimentation, right? And trying things out. To that end too, in terms of easeability and feasibility, I actually just recorded a 5-minute sound bath, just bowls. I'm gonna do a longer one adding drum and chime, but if you pick up my card later, or you know, it's just my name, Katie with a Y, Oberle, on any streaming service, you know, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, wherever. I have some actual of my songs out there too, but this sound bath is called Clearing the Path. It's just 5 minutes, and you can always put it on repeat and have that, because it'll be a very similar setup. It's the same bowl set that I use, so feel free to use that as a tool as well. Any other questions or comments to share before we close? And know that it takes me a few minutes to pack up, so I'll be here if you want to chat one-on-one at all also.
Well, the sounds were amazing. Those were expected. I wasn't expecting the beauty of the instruments themselves, like the appearance of them, and that made a difference for me.
Yeah, there's something kind of aesthetically pleasing and calming about that too.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for just, you know, going for it, being willing to try something for a lot of you new, and it was just a joy to be with you. Have a lovely Sunday. Happy holidays.
You too.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.